Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Good, and joining me this week is an incredibly special guest, film actor, TV actor, commercial actor, voice actor, Amanda Troop. Amanda, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much for being on. It's such a pleasure. We were kind of chatting beforehand, and this is something that a lot of the people who watch the show were like, you got to get her on someday. And I was like, yeah, I would love to. So I'm glad this finally worked out.
Yeah,
And
thanks for asking.
Of course, yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
also, I'm a fan of your work, and a lot of people who are watching this are also fans of your work, and we're going to totally get to them. But if there are some people who are unfamiliar with you right now, if you could just give us a little taste test of who you are, like as far as like some favorite movies, some favorite games, not including the one we're going to be talking about today specifically. But
What I enjoy personally, what I'm a fan of.
yes, of course, yes, please.
Yeah. Well, I'm in a nerd book club.
Cool.
Actually, I was in two book clubs, but one's kind of dissolved during the pandemic. Maybe it'll come back.
Sure.
But so I'm an avid reader. I read a lot of stuff. And what do I like? I like I like fantasy novels pretty well. So I've read like a pretty broad swath there, but it's such a huge world
Yeah.
of reading. So of course I haven't read everything. Yeah, no, I for years was saying to people like, oh, like when Game of Thrones began, the TV show, I was like, well, the books are really good. You should really read the books. And everyone was like, no, I'm going to watch the TV show. I'm like, but the books are so much more in depth. They're so good. And it really, like, I couldn't get my nerd book club to read it. And I think I still haven't. We read another book that he wrote about vampires on riverboats.
Oh.
And the name is completely escaping me right now. But that was not as good as these books. Anyway, we're never getting it. There's a music video to that end. I don't know if you've seen it, where I don't remember. You have to do some Google searching, but it's like this guy's like, "You have a new favorite show? It's on HBO. It's called Game of Thrones." And then it's like heavy metal, hard rock. Well, I read the effing books, and they're just like smashing
Yes.
things. So I was like that for a bit. And I was actually saying to Brandon the other day, for a while we were reading like all the Walking Dead comics, graphic novels together. And that was really enjoyable. We did that with the Buffy series too.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like, what do I like? What do I don't like? And right now we're doing a full watch through of all the MCU.
Oh, cool.
I grew up playing computer games with my dad. King's Quest, Space Quest.
Nice.
11th. Oh gosh, 7th Guest, 11th. No. Hello, help me.
Yep.
7th Guest, 11th Hour? No, that's not right.
You want me to
I
look it
did
up?
play them.
I believe you. I believe you.
They're gonna catch me. You're not a real nerd.
Yeah.
I think the fact that I'm nervous and I fumble these things only proves
Yeah.
how socially awkward I am. Not that that's there. I'm digging myself into a hole. Listen, you don't need to be socially awkward. I am socially awkward to be a nerd. I am also a nerd. Both of those things are true at the same time.
Fair
Hi,
enough.
I'm Amanda Troop.
Yeah. And this is your TED Talk. I love it.
Yeah, and of course, Brandon really got me into Disneyland stuff.
Rock on.
And what am I playing now? I'm playing the Phoenix game.
Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Yeah, how you liking it?
I beat it, and now I'm playing the New Gods,
Nice.
and that's good, not as fun. One of the things I was doing in Phoenix was I was trying to get all the mounts, and I have
Sure.
a couple different kinds of Pegasuses and a unicorn
Cool.
and a really cool horse with armor. That's how I like to play games. When I was playing World of Warcraft back in the day, I got my night elf to level 76
Nice.
while not ever playing with anyone. Like occasionally I would play with Brandon, but mostly I like to play by like seeing how much I can do with stealth mode and creeping around. And so Phoenix really appealed to me because it was all like creeping around and exploring, like, what's over here? Oh, this is useless and taking me towards the end of the story at all, but I'm going to do this for like the next 5 times I play this game. It's also why I never beat Breath of the Wild.
I was gonna say, if you got into Breath of the Wild, that would have just been all you did.
It's all I did. And then when it finally came time to fight the final battle, I just said, I'm good.
You're like, Zelda, you're fine. You're gonna be okay. I
Yeah.
got work to do over in
Yeah.
Terrytown. You know.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Okay, well, a varied amount of things that you've been into, but I do have to ask one specific question here. You did bring up Disneyland for 1 second. Favorite attraction there? Do you have one?
I mean, this is tough.
Mhm.
And I'm going to probably say
The build-up.
the build up. I'm probably going to say Haunted Mansion because I like how immersive it is,
Mhm.
but I also love Indiana Jones.
Very good.
But then, and I've only gotten to ride it once. But the new, help me with the name, the Star Wars,
Rise of the Resistance.
that one,
Yes.
yeah. Holy smokes, that's a ride! Wow, we got to ride that in January of 2020, and that was an all-day saga. We went for Brandon's birthday. We had my mother-in-law over babysitting our petite baby, and we got there at I think 6 in the morning,
Yeah.
so we could be in the gate right when it opened. Hit that button to get in the queue.
Mhm.
We were put on the wait list, and we were like, they said like if you're not like I don't remember exactly, but I think it was like if you're not under 90, you're not getting on the ride. And we were like 98 or 104, something like that. And we were like, oh. And I said, well, let's just see. And so like by 10 a.m., the queue had moved forward really fast. And so we called my mother-in-law. We were like, how long do we have? And she goes, you can stay all day. And we ended up riding it around 8 p.m.
Nice.
And like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm glad we did because that was actually the last time we went to Disneyland.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, I was actually there in Disneyland 4 days before they closed everything down. So I got out right before that. It was the weekend before. Had a great time. Disneyland's fantastic. I love it so much. Like
Yeah.
it's fantastic. Oh my gosh, but great
like,
picks.
Like, and the thing about Disneyland is like you asked me like what my favorite thing is. I think my favorite thing is like after you've ridden some rides and it's kind of hot and you get a snack and you find some shade and you just sit and watch people.
Yeah.
I think that's actually my favorite thing to do at Disneyland.
What a pure
It's like
answer. That's great.
Yeah,
That's so
just to
good. Yeah.
just be there with my popcorn.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I always tell
Yeah.
people the best moments are the ones that it's not going to be like the ride or the dinner. It's like the people you're with and like the things that happen kind of around you, kind of like what you're talking about there, because you'll see people from all walks of life going through experiencing, having the greatest day of their life, some people having not the greatest day of their life, and just
Yeah.
all over the place. And it's just so
Yeah.
cool. And you're in California, but you're in a jungle, or you're in New Orleans, or you're in
Yeah.
tomorrow, like the time
And
of
I did a voice in Star Wars Land.
Yes,
Or
I did know about that.
I'm 3 voices in there. It's hard to find me. I've never heard myself. But
You're like going around.
I'm in there.
You're like,
I'm
I'm
in
here
there.
somewhere.
I played a character named Salju, who's like a mechanic in the
Oh.
the little bay there, like the mechanics bay,
Yes.
where I think they have a stunt show there, which I've also never gotten to see. But apparently, at some point, my voice comes out of somewhere,
Okay.
and then when you're in the corridor where all the shops are,
Mhm.
I'm voices coming out of 2 of the windows.
Oh,
I'm
dang.
like a little girl talking about a toy that she just got, and then I'm a woman yelling at her brother to stop watching the pod races.
Sure. I'm sure
Yeah.
I heard you one of those nights because I find that when you're there in Batu, when it's like really, when there's nobody there, that's when you can actually hear the ambiance and
Mhm.
stuff. Like you're like, oh yeah, I can hear someone's talking over here. So I probably
Yeah.
heard you at one point. And it was
Yeah,
so
yeah.
immersive. I didn't know. I didn't know it was
Yeah.
you. You didn't stick out like a sore thumb. Next time I go, I'm going to be like, Amanda, I'll just start sending you like
Yeah.
audio clips. This you? Is this you?
Yeah. you may because you might catch me. Yeah.
And then I'll be like, you have to
Yeah.
go right over here. I was here at like 5
mean,
at night.
I think it really speaks to how layered the Imagineers made
Oh.
the sound design of the area, because you can be there and like not really hear any repetition. You have to wait for a long time to hear the same thing again. And how
Yeah.
cool is that?
So cool.
That they made it such a sensory experience.
Yeah, well, I've heard a lot,
Mm-hmm.
especially like Tony Baxter, one of the Imagineers who did like Big Thunder Mountain and stuff. He's like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
design a ride for the first ride; it's the 20th ride. So when you go on the 20th time, you see something you've never seen before. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like that Imagineering kind of
Yeah.
philosophy baked in, and it's
Yeah.
so cool. Ah,
It's so
gosh,
cool.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
great. Okay, well, this is not a Disney. I could make this a Disney podcast, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to
Yeah,
show
what are we
restraint to the.
talking about?
We're
Why are we
talking.
here?
We're talking about something. We're talking about your favorite film of all time,
Oh
or
my
so you
gosh.
say. No, we're talking today about The Princess Bride,
Yeah.
which I hope is still the right. We're talking Princess Bride,
I mean, like sometimes I think it's changed, and then I'm like,
Sure.
no, it's the same. It's always been The Princess Bride. And like for a while, it was between that and The Goonies.
Oh, okay.
But you kind of can't hold a candle to Princess Bride. Like The Goonies is just not on the same level.
Sure.
And when I was like I don't know, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range, I had on repeat The Princess Bride, or I had on Hallmark Hall of Fame presents The Secret Garden, which we recorded off the TV onto a Betamax tape.
Very cool.
And so it had all the commercials and everything. But again, just because I watched it a lot doesn't make it my favorite film. But like, and Brandon contends that the only flaw with um The Princess Bride, and Brandon's my husband, by the way, and he works for Easy Allies.
Yes.
Just FYI, I'm like referencing Brandon, like, yeah, Brandon.
Everybody knows Brandon.
Everybody
Yeah.
knows Brandon.
Yeah, we're all friends.
But he contends that the movie could be better if it had orchestrated music and not synthesized music. But I contend that it's perfect as is because the synthesized kind of like gives it a little levity
Sure.
even in the more serious moments. And it's so, I think, so well acted and performed that it's nice to have a little like underneath some of the more like the like Inigo Montoya serious scenes. Like
Mm-hmm.
they still have that deep impact, but then you're still reminded like this is a jolly romp.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, and for anybody out there who hasn't watched The Princess Bride yet, it's streaming right now on Hulu. I'm sure you can get it other places, but this will be. We're just going to talk about it very open-endedly. Spoilers are fully on. It's been out since 1987. You should have seen it by now, right?
You should have seen it by now.
Come on,
go watch it.
Go watch
Pause the podcast. Watch it. Come back.
Exactly. Yeah, we can do that. We have the technology. But I was really fascinated to hear that this film. With Rob Reiner directing, he called the company, I think Fox or whomever was doing it, he said, like, I don't want this to be another Wizard of Oz, where he meant it flopped that first weekend, and then over like a few decades, it becomes like, oh, this thing. And apparently it did very poorly right away, but then it
have you seen the trailer?
I think I have seen it a while ago. It's not.
It doesn't sell it.
Yeah, it doesn't sell it as well as it could, right?
No. Yeah.
But then on VHS, it did crazy. People were starting like the word of mouth, like, you gotta watch this. People were like, I should have seen this in theaters, and all the people who were on this movie, they're like, yeah, well, like, I'm just glad you're seeing it now. But a lot of people I've heard talk about this, not just you, but when I said that you're gonna be on, we're talking about Princess Bride. People were like, oh my gosh, I love that movie. Everybody's like, yeah, I love that movie. I haven't found any people who don't like
cast is legendary. Like it's like what a tour de force.
Yeah.
Really.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I, to be honest with you, Robin Wright, I did not recognize her at first as Princess Buttercup.
Oh, really?
Which is really weird because I'm used to seeing her nowadays as Antiope in Wonder Woman. She's just like this, I'm going to beat everybody up. I'm the strongest lady possible. Whereas in this film, she's like the classic damsel in distress princess. There's not as much to her, but she knows that she loves this person, and it transcends death.
But again, she acts it so well. They all really commit, and I think that's one of the things that really works about it as a comedy is that they aren't playing at it. They are playing these characters with as much feeling and connection as possible.
Yeah.
And I think the direction really shines there too, and the pace is so good. It moves. You just, like you turn that movie on and it's over. And you're like, wow.
Yeah.
That was amazing. It's great. I love it. And flash forward many years, I go into a callback for a commercial, and the director's there, and he's this cute man around my age, and he's giving me direction, and I'm like, so funny. He looks like Fred Savage. Da 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 da. And I'm like, is this Fred Savage? And I walk out and I talk to one of the session runners. I'm like, is this commercial being directed by Fred Savage? And they're like, yeah, that's Fred Savage. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I didn't know that going
Yeah.
in. Because, of course, being that age, like he in that and then on the Wonder Years was like my childhood crush.
Sure.
And so then I booked that, and I've actually booked. I worked at the last thing I did before everything shut down was another commercial that he directed. So I worked with him twice, which is like think about the deep soul string that like the beautiful harmony of my soul in getting to, like, oh my gosh, what a treat. Like starstruck and I don't know, fangirling and yet also like the beautiful circle. I can't, like I can't even express it, like how exciting it is, but also like how cool it is that like watching that film as a kid all the way to now in my adulthood, working with him as a peer is like, this must mean I set off on the right path going into acting.
Yeah, totally. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
It's like poetry.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
No, definitely no. And I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm sure he's not here. I don't know him, but I would imagine he would say he's lucky to be working with you too, because you wouldn't be a part of his work if it worked.
He is a sincerely nice guy and a really good director.
That's really cool.
So,
I remember
yeah.
one of the last times I was introduced to him, but it was more so on Boy Meets World as Corey's like this professor who was like a bad guy, even though Corey and Fred are brothers in real life, and he like pushes Fred through some doors, and it's a whole thing. So I was always like, Fred Savage is kind of like the bad guy, like the creepy guy who comes to like the girls, and it's like, no, definitely not that.
No.
It was like one role, on a thing, and I was just like, oh my gosh, he's done all this other stuff. Because the Wonder Years was a little before my time, unfortunately, but it sounds like it was still really impactful for you.
Yeah, it's before my time too.
Of course, yes, yeah. Well, you're like 29, 30?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's great. Good for you.
Yeah.
And you're
Thank you.
you're already so involved. Like you're just like, Fred, I watched the Wonder Years on a VHS. What is that? I kind of grew up with it. I don't know what you're talking about, man. But that's so cool though. For me, it'd be like working with like Peter Jackson on a commercial or something. And I'd be like, who's that? I'd be like, I can't even, I'd be like, oh gosh, please.
Yeah. Like you give yourself a little mental pep talk of like, just keep it together.
Yeah.
Just
keep it cool.
Just keep it together.
Yeah. Nothing
Just keep
big.
it cool.
Yeah.
You're just a person. Try to be a person. Remember how to be a person.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Well, it's funny. I was watching the documentary that they made about this. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like a half-hour documentary that they have behind the scenes on the film.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like on the DVD extras. Yeah, I think I have seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Fred's on there, and it's funny because he talks about his role as the grandson, and he's like, I was kind of just there, and I was like your everyday kid. I got kind of too into the games I was playing, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm like on a movie set, and it was the first thing he had ever really done.
Yeah.
And just playing it very, like, how any, like, the little kid in me, like, totally, I'm like, oh, I get why you jump back to this, because, like, that's the framing of the story, and he plays it so well,
Yeah.
And then Peter Falk's there as the grandfather, who's just fantastic. I was like, this guy should, like, I almost wish he was a character in, like, the fictional part, just in the background somewhere, because he's just so interesting. I'm like, oh, you're so cool.
Right.
I was like, this guy's so great. But for you, like, who's your favorite? Do you have any favorite characters? Obviously, you said it's kind of a tour de force of actors. Is there any ones that stand out?
I mean, I think for purely like the level of acting chops brought to it, Mandy Patinkin as Inigo Montoya is my favorite. But then, yeah, you gotta love Christopher Guest.
Yep.
It's like, well, and then hi.
Hi, how you doing?
What's the name of the actress?
I can help you.
Yeah, help me. I don't want to pull up IMDb right now.
I already have it pulled up.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Liar! Back witch. I'm not a witch. I'm your wife. But after what you just said, I'm not sure if I want to be that anymore.
Are we talking? You're not talking about Carol Kane?
Carol Kane.
Carol Kane. We did
He
it.
yells,
Nailed
Carol
it.
Kane. Carol Kane's amazing.
Yeah.
Carol Kane was on Sesame Street too.
Oh,
What a funny appearance. We're watching a lot of Sesame Street these days, let me
yeah.
tell you. And I decided to go way back and to watch the early days, which is so interesting how
Oh
it's
yeah.
changed. And the pace has sped up too as we get more and more modern. They take a little less time with certain things, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but Carol Kane was on it as the nice person who lives in Grouchland. So they
Oh,
visit Grouchland. And so, you know how Oscar's the grouch that lives on Sesame Street? Well, she's the nice lady that lives in Grouchland. And what a
that's great.
funny, yeah, anyway,
And then
for
she
the
plays this
Sesame,
role, and it's not
for
even.
those Sesame Street fans out there.
Yeah, oh, totally. Well, who isn't? I'm a huge Sesame Street fan. Cookie Monster is my spirit animal. I love him so much. I resonate with him. He's doing a bunch of stuff these days where he's like in Harry Potter knockoffs, or like they put him like a Jurassic Park, like in the show.
Really?
Like they do, like Cookie Monster is in like in his own wizarding school and stuff, and he's like a wizard.
What?
Yes, you should
What?
check this out. So Cookie's been
Is
like,
this on Sesame Street?
it's on Sesame Street. Yeah, it's
Well,
supposed to.
we'll get there. We're watching it in chronological. I don't
Okay.
want to. No spoilers.
I'm so sorry. My bad. I
We're
didn't know.
watching it. We're watching it from the beginning.
Okay,
We
fair
don't
enough.
Look, we just got to Elmo. Elmo's got a wiggle.
Elmo's got a
He's
wiggle.
He's got a silly wiggle. He's got to show it off. That was the episode today.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me of one of the behind the scenes on with Robin Williams on there with Elmo, and at the very end, Elmo says, "Thank you very much, Mr. Robbins," and then he's like, "Oh no, I only had 2 lines." Like he screwed it up after this whole thing, and Robin Williams is just kind of he's playing around. It's like, oh, it's so
Yeah.
good. I
Oh,
was
that's
like,
so funny.
yeah, okay, but so
Yeah.
Valerie sticks
Yes.
out to you, and she's not like she has it's a minor role, but it's a memorable one because she's playing off Billy Crystal and
It's
like these two
it's like the
crazy
whole
people.
movie is cameos. Though.
Yeah.
It's like there's no minor role. Everybody and they're all people that you see everywhere. Like
Yeah.
you know, it's all-star cast. So yes, sorry, go
No,
on.
no, I was
Is
gonna
that a
say
question?
no. That was to say I love that that's the one like some of the ones you picked out. It's like with Inigo
Yeah.
being as one of the main ones, then Valerie one of the like lesser known ones. I
Yeah.
thought it was gonna be like the Queen or something for a second, but I was like I don't think that's who she's referring to at first here. But
No.
yeah, I also was kind of marveling at the fact that this was made on a pretty tight budget, but there's some really great sets, and they actually shot on location in England, which is super duper cool. Like, it feels really authentic, and like the performances, is also sincere. Like,
Yeah.
it is a satire, but at the same time, it's like everyone in it is being like, I am this person. This is like where we are, like physically. And I think that's a beautiful thing. You know, you don't
Yeah,
see that as
yeah.
much nowadays. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you, when it comes back to watching this, like now you used to watch it a lot, do you still revisit it pretty frequently, or is it something that you're like, once in a while?
I think it's a once a year kind of a thing.
Okay.
You know, usually around the holidays, there's sort of a, you know, it'll be fun to watch The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Oh, for sure. Well, it's
Yeah.
funny because I watched it a few years ago with my family, like for New Year's, and it was kind of one of those like, hey, you watch it around the holidays type thing.
Yeah.
And I was researching this a little bit, but Peter Diamond, who's kind of one of the stunt coordinators behind this, helped make that incredible like sword fight scene that we have.
Unbelievable, right?
So good.
One
and
of the most amazing sword fight scenes, period.
yeah, it's so
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
And learning more about how for people who don't know, Peter Diamond worked on Raiders of the Lost Ark, Star Wars, a bunch of different things, really well known as a stunt coordinator. But they talked about that Carrie and Patty were kind of, they'd watch these old like black and white sword fighting films, and they're like, find the most intense things that they could possibly do. And they're like, can we do that? And they learned how to do all of it. And it's them in every shot of that sword fight. It's all them, and it's so authentic, and it's just so good but fun. Like I don't know, there's something about it. It just it's not like it's dangerous, but in a kind of a less like harrowing way. I don't know if you get that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's part of the fun of it is that the danger, the stakes are high, but simultaneously, you know, like there's a safety to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's again like it's like a holiday watch, or like, you know, it's a kind of a comforting film. It's just that they ride that line where it's like, wow, these are masters, and actually, you know, there's a little bit of bloodshed in it. And it's like, oh, there's a risk, and like, you know, towards the end, like Inigo gets really messed up. So you get that first taste of his skill, with with Wesley, uh, and but then you see him uh, beaten in that scene, and so it's sort of like, okay, this is the best swords person in the world until he met the man in black, whose motivation is true love, which is of course like what the story is about, is like that motivation. And I think in a way, it's nice. Maybe in the film version, in the book it's a little bit different, but in the film, it sort of is like, well, he's driven by revenge, but also the love of his father, and the love of his father eventually is what gets him. He's like, you know what, I'm gonna keep saying my mantra, and I'm going to, follow through on my revenge. But then he doesn't know what to do after his revenge, which is like, a lesson.
Yeah, oh, totally. And it sounds like in real life, Patty lost his own father to cancer. And he said, when I finally stabbed, this guy I've been chasing forever, the six-fingered man, he's like,
Do you mean Mandy Patinkin?
Sorry, Mandy. I meant to say Mandy.
You said Patty, and I was like, who's
Mandy.
Patty? Well, I'm going to go with this.
Yes, sorry.
He's Patty now.
Yeah, Patty. I've combined it together because like that last name throws me off, and I'm like, Patinkin, Patty, Mandy Patinkin. And he talked about, he's like, when you say that last line there, he's like, I felt like I was killing the cancer that killed my father. And he was kind of like a therapy. It's like a catharsis. I was like, oh my gosh, because you feel it when he says that. You're like, oh my gosh, like he finally got his revenge, but it was like a justifiable revenge, kind of thing. And like you said, he's kind of after, he's like, I don't know what to do. He's like,
right.
Kind of.
Well, and in the books, he so everything goes into far more depth. You learn so much more about each character.
Oh, cool.
And the end of the story, they joke at it in the film where he goes, I devoted my whole life to revenge and I'm not sure what to do. And Wesley goes, have you ever considered pirating? You'd be a wonderful man in black or whatever, or Dread Pirate Roberts or whatever. And he's like, maybe, but like I haven't read the book in a while, but like the end of the book, it's like, and they lived happily ever after until, Indigo, felt this thing, or, somebody's wounds opened up again, and Buttercup and Wesley realized they had nothing to talk about, and like it was sort of like they lived happily ever after, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, you also bring up a great point too about the Dread Pirate Roberts. I love that that's like a weird mantle passed down between people who aren't necessarily the most dangerous. Like when they come into contact with that person, it's like, well, the previous one gave it to this person, the previous one gave it to this person, and then you get to kind of do whatever you want because you're like, I am the Dread Pirate Roberts, and people are like, oh, really?
The name is the thing, not the
And it's just like at the end of this, you could maybe retire and you have like a happy life. But if you want to just kind of see the world and do a bunch of different things, then you can do that.
Right.
Which is, I think is really fascinating. And I kind of wish I could have seen that, like Wesley meeting him. But I get that's the whole point early on to be like, well, he goes off to find wealth and fortune and then come back for Buttercup. And it's just kind of ancillary to what the real driving force of the plot of love, which it is, which I think is great.
Well, one of the things that all the characters have in common, the Buttercup, Wesley, Fezzik, and Inigo, is that they all, and even what's the inconceivable guy's name?
Oh, is it? I think it's. Let me just double check because I know that was the question. It is.
Vizzini.
Vizzini.
Yeah. Even he. They all are people that devoted their lives to something, and worked toward something, and this is. Take it for what you will. Buttercup's, and I don't know that she necessarily works toward it except after she falls in love with Wesley. But she's her whole thing is she's almost the most beautiful woman in the world. And there's this whole, and obviously the book is all written very tongue in cheek too, but there's like a whole like ranking system of like, at this time, this woman was the most beautiful woman in the world. And this woman was, and like the rise and downfall of their beauty. And Buttercup was like the 70th most beautiful woman in the world at the start of the story. And then she falls in love, and this is in the book, obviously. She falls in love with Wesley. and he goes off to sea, and she tries to become more beautiful. But when she hears that he has died, her grief is what finally pushes her over the edge, and she becomes the most beautiful woman in the world.
Hmm.
So she has that arc where she's worked towards that. And then Wesley, in trying to get back to Buttercup, becomes the most capable fighter and pirate uh, in the world.
Hmm.
Fezzik is the best wrestler in the world. Inigo is the best sword fighter in the world. And Vincini is the smartest conniver in the world. And so there's this like, but then there's also the Six Finger Man, who's the most, I don't know, vindictive in the world.
Maybe.
Or selfish. I don't know. Yeah, but they're all like these people that have kind of gotten to the peak of their whatever it is that they want to do, and now they've come together in this story. And I forget where I started.
That's okay.
The end.
I was gonna say about this. I love that Prince Humperdinck is the greatest like hunter or tracker in the world.
Right, he's
like,
the great. Yes,
which
exactly.
you
They're
wouldn't
all
think
that.
about, right?
Yeah.
Like usually I would think would be saved for the Six-Fingered Man. Like he would be like the tracker, but he gets down off his feet. He's like, "There's a great battle here." Somebody ran away, and somebody went this way. And I was just like, "Oh, that's
Yeah.
kind of fun." But you're right, everybody's the greatest, but Wesley becomes like even greater still because of his quest
Right.
for love,
Right.
and then also kind of he's a little jilted. He's like a jilted lover. Like he's treating Buttercup pretty poorly for a while. He's
Well,
like,
he
"How
thinks,
dare
yeah,
you?" You know.
you left me. You didn't believe I'd come
Yeah.
back for you.
Yeah.
But we had the greatest love in the world.
Yeah.
And so, but I think all of these superlative versions of things, again, that's kind of where the stakes lie, and why the comedy works is like it's absurd
Yeah.
that they're all the best in the world, and they're all, so I mean, William Goldman, who wrote it, is just an extremely gifted storyteller and screenwriter, and so it's also neat that he wrote the book and the screenplay.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't know if you've read any books by him on screenwriting, but
I don't think I have yet.
he's a very he's passed, but he really breaks it down in a really fascinating way.
That's really cool. And it's funny
Yeah.
because when I was watching kind of the behind the scenes about it, he talked about, he's like, a lot of people who write these things, they want to be on set. And he's like, I didn't, because what happened is one day I was there during the fire swamp sequence and heard, Buttercup's dress catches on fire. And he's like, I yelled out that, oh my gosh, your dress is on fire. And he's like, I completely ruined the take. And he's like, it was hard for me to be on set because I would react too much to it. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
that's
that's
great.
cool.
See, a lot of
Yeah.
sincerity. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said at the beginning with the sets and everything, even the monsters and everything, all of it's real. And I think that's what makes it hold up even better, There's something about that kind of tangibility with like the rodents of unusual size or the
Yeah.
shrieking eels and stuff like that. Like there's
Right.
like a real threat and you're like, oh my gosh, even though they're not the real true threats to love, they're just kind of these obstacles that kind of come in, from the exterior. And I was just like, oh man, that's great. Even though I'm like, yeah, they're freaky, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
it's nice. It's nice to have something without CG.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
just,
the
it's like,
practical effects are really, really. Yeah,
that's so good.
I think it grounds it. It grounds it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to go back and watch this and talk about it with someone who it's it's your favorite film of all time or one of your favorite films of all time, and I think a lot of people it's really resonated with, and it's very straightforward, but the framing I think is interesting. That's something I got a lot of questions about of the grandfather talking to the grandson about this. For you personally, do you like that framing, or do you think that you could have just done the full fantasy
Oh no, I think it's great. And in the book, and I know this is one of the questions William asked this on the Twitter.
Yeah.
But in the book, the framing is, if I recollect correctly, it's much more the writer dealing with his divorce and trying to, I think, connect with his son.
Okay.
And it's almost, I think that there are three voices in the book. There's the writer who found the Princess Bride, and then within the book is the Good Parts version. And so the Good Parts version, and in the book they have them in different colors. I don't know if that's how they do it in the paperback, but if you have like the hard copy of it, the text is different colors. And I read this originally when I was like 11 or 12. From I got it from the library. Um, and so there are multiple voices narrating the story. And I think that I don't remember if it's the author is deciding on the Good Parts version because that's what he wants to give to his son, is just the good parts of the story. But of course, that kind of reflects backwards into like if you were going through a divorce,
Hmm.
you might want to only give the good parts to your child.
Yeah.
And and so that's a very interesting level, but it's a lot to put into a film. And so essentially what they did with the film was they said, let's just do the good parts version as the film and have it be the grandpa reading this book to his grandson. And so we can be left wondering, is the grandfather actively opting to skip passages, which in fact he says he does. He skips the kissing parts
Hmm.
for his son or for his grandson because he's like, that's gross. I don't want to hear
Yeah.
that. But is he also skipping other parts that are not so interesting? Like, if I remember correctly, I think there was a sequence about golfing that was like a joke in there, like, oh yeah, and then the prince talked about golfing for a while. But it's literally been quite a while since I've read it. So don't at me,
That's
or
okay.
actually do at me. Tell me what I've messed up, but do it nicely.
Yeah,
Um,
respectfully so.
Respectfully, like,
We'd appreciate that.
Amanda, you made that up. You had a dream about the golfing sequence. Like, okay, all right, fair enough, fair enough. But so still, that's I think that in that way, the storytelling is that story within a story. So
Mhm.
I like that they made that change for the film. I think it's effective.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. And like you said, you had a question. We had at least one on Twitter, and I do want to get to the questions because a lot of people had questions about not only you but about Princess Bride that we can kind of jump into
Mm,
here at the end, kind
great.
of a lightning round, as it were. So many questions, not even on just Twitter, on the Discord too. Uh,
Oh,
and I want to start with this one comes in from Caden. He says questions for Amanda. He says, first of all, love your work. There you go. I didn't want to put it as a question because it's not. He says, what are some of your favorite roles that you've done, voice acting or otherwise?
it's so hard to answer that question. Sometimes I say it's whatever my next one is.
Oh, that's good.
I do fall in love with many of my characters. I think that's kind of part of the process as you begin to live in their skin and through them. Um, well, so I'll say recently I got to do an audiobook that just came out, Go the Distance, where I got to play Megara from the Disney Hercules films.
Cool.
This is a sequel to Hercules, and it's what if Megara had to become a god, and it's her quest. And I got very into being her, and I loved that book. I loved playing that. But then if we like go back in time, like I did Agnes of God, I loved being Agnes on stage. That was a beautiful, beautiful role to play. Um, I liked playing Gulu in the Rage 2 video game.
Yeah.
That was a fun one. Um, it's very hard. I don't want to play favorites.
Okay.
I love being other people, so it's hard. It's a hard choice.
That's okay. That's not.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that. I like when you like sat back when I asked you at first. You're like, oh no, like I have to like. It's like the weight hits you. You're like, oh, I can't choose between
I
these. Or
can't
like,
choose.
love
Yeah,
them all. It's okay.
yeah.
I totally understand. And they says, any advice you wish you knew starting out as an actor that you could give to aspiring actors?
Yes. Two pieces. Um, okay. This is advice that I did do. I did take this, okay, which is be in classes. Always be learning.
Hmm.
Always be in some kind of acting class or be in a play. Always be working on your craft in some way. Second, be assured in yourself that you have something to offer, that you yourself are unique and you're bringing something that no one else has to the acting world because your experience is unlike anyone else's experience. And so because of that, you are valuable and you matter. And even if you are in situations where you're feeling like there is rejection, um, come back to that. Come back to that sense of valuing yourself and knowing that you matter and that you have a story that's worth telling. Um, because the industry will tell you that you are the lowest rung, but really you are a person and they are people, and do everything with respect and kindness, but know that you have value no matter what. Um, and there was something else in there that I wanted to say. Oh, have something else that's important to you too. Don't just follow your passion in acting so single-mindedly that you have nothing else in your life. Volunteer, um, have a hobby, find something else that you love a lot that you can do so that you don't become completely subsumed and one-dimensional. Being an actor means that you are someone that is trying to express the experiences of myriad people. And you cannot do that if all you do is go to casting director workshops and acting class and industry parties and auditions. Like, it's just going to make you too closed off. So make sure that you're getting back out there, that you have other things that you do, and that you're learning not just about acting, but about many things.
Wow, that's fantastic advice. Also, the word subsumed. Fantastic. So good.
Have I mentioned I'm in two book clubs?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're like, yep, that's right. One of them is all about dictionaries and thesauruses. We love it.
Here, let me just like a little light reading right here. Oh, what's this? What's this that I have right here? Oh, what's this? Oh, it's a dictionary.
Yes.
Wait, I have a dictionary right here.
That's fantastic. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. You're just like, and here we go. I got a pocket one over here.
It's actually one of the only books that we've unboxed from our books yet. We don't have bookshelves yet, so we have boxes of books that need to. So got my dictionary out.
That's a good one to have. You pulled a good one. You pulled a really good one.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. This one comes in from Mecha Rekka. And he wants to know, how has your acting career, voice work, or live action been affected by the pandemic, by COVID?
Well, different actors have chosen different ways to, different things that work for them. Production did shut down for a while, and then it started up with many precautions. I know that productions are spending tons of money on COVID tests, making sure that their sets are safe. For me, with a little kid and with my in-laws who live nearby, I knew that my level, my threshold of comfort was going to be a lot lower. And so I said to my agents, here's what I'm comfortable with. And a lot of productions, like commercials, were being shot from people's like private homes with their actual family members, or they'd have an actor completely alone doing something outside. And so when I had opportunities for things like that, I auditioned for them. But voiceover wise, pretty early on, I thought, oh, we're going to be working from home, and I need to make sure that I have the tools and that my booth is tuned up. So I actually called up some friends who are sound engineers, and I had them work with me to make sure that my voiceover setup was as good as possible. I got software so that I could connect for recordings because what started happening was you'd get an email and it would say, to audition for this, you must have Source Connect, which is a way that you can connect for voiceover work, so that they can record you directly on their end at the studio.
Mm.
Um, and so I went and I upgraded my voiceover stuff because I knew like this is going to be my main focus for the foreseeable future. And so for me, it actually was an interesting thing because my acting scope, which has been kind of broad, really narrowed in on voiceover, and it's been a really good year for me for voiceover. You know, there's
Yeah.
been some really neat bookings, and I got some cool stuff that's coming out pretty soon that I'm excited about. But you know, it's been really cool to be able to do it from home too. You know, I've worked on The Simpsons for many years doing their looping for the show, and I did a couple sessions for my home booth.
That's so cool.
Like, how amazing is that? And like, and yeah, so that's been a really interesting adaptation. And it's made me consider how much I want to add back in too, because I've been so focused on voiceover. I'm kind of considering like, do I want how much how far into each aspect of my career that I was in do I want to add back in, or do I want to stay focused in this one realm and see, you know, see what that focus where that focus can take me. So I'm in a phase there where I'm considering that. Uh, Improv wise, you know, I'm in a group called Gripply Improv. We're improv, but also a production company. We've produced a series of films, and we transitioned fully to doing shows on Twitch. So
Yep.
we live stream our shows, and we did a live streamed improvised TV show called Heartbeats, and we've got another one that's going to be announced tomorrow. Follow Ripley Improv on Twitter, find out. Um, very exciting stuff. But we've fully transitioned. Like, how do we take our desire to work in film and television and our desire to make improvised content to people during this time? So, you know, we've really adapted there, and that's been a really interesting and fun journey for us as well. And we're connecting with a lot more people online too, which is cool.
Oh, for sure. Well, you're tapping
Yeah.
into different markets that maybe you wouldn't have access to, or they wouldn't have had access to you before. Now
Right.
anywhere, you know, you're just like,
Right.
people are like, I didn't know this existed and I love it. So that's
Right.
really
And
cool.
so, and again, we're at this point where we're like, oh, we were doing shows in a black box theater in Los Angeles. Are we going to want to do that? Maybe some, but we're going to want to stay online. We've adapted in a way that we like,
Yeah.
and that again is allowing us to connect with so many new people. It's like, well, that's a pretty cool, you know, making lemonade out of a very, very difficult situation.
Very much so. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we have other questions, but the problem is I don't want to keep you
Oh,
all
no,
dang
no, no,
day. Are
no,
you
no.
sure?
Let's answer questions.
Okay. All right. I want
Yeah.
to make sure. I don't want to. I
I
don't
want
want
to
to.
answer. I'm the one that listen. If I keep talking, that's my clock
Oh,
ticking.
okay. All right. Well, then I am completely and utterly at your mercy. This one comes in from Fraggett, and he says, "Hey there, Amanda. Hope you and the family are staying safe." So my question
Thanks.
is a dark and depressing one, and here it goes. While
Oh,
fans can be incredibly passionate, so the fans and have a great connection to a story and character, it's not always good. In recent years, the negative or aggressive passion has been as loud, if not louder, than ever before, thanks social media. The clearest example of this would be the disgusting reaction Laura Bailey received for her character in The Last of Us 2. Has this ugly side of fandom ever had an effect on you or anyone you know in the same line of work before taking on a role?
before taking on a role.
Yeah, probably more, or maybe after too. I would think it'd probably. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, I've met Laura Bailey. I wouldn't say that we're not buddies, but I've met her, and that was very dark and very upsetting.
Mm,
Um, I can't say that it's affected me personally in any way, um, but I understand the passion and that there is, uh, in a certain way, it's incredible these stories are affecting people so deeply and so personally. On the other hand, it is alarming in a way that there's this inability to separate the actor from the story. And I wonder if it's because things are becoming so much more, like our friendships are on screen now.
Yeah.
And we meet people on Twitter and we might know them for years before we actually meet them in person. And so there's this thing where the things we see on our screens are our reality. And so if we're telling stories on screen and then we're seeing friends on screen and we're never actually face to face with people, there's an impersonalization of what should be personal relationships and a personalization of things that are not personal. And I think it's probably a very difficult emotional terrain to navigate. So I haven't been affected by it. I do feel empathy for people who are struggling and that are connecting deeply to these characters in this way. And I wish for more personal connection. I think this is why live theater is so important. Because again, it's that tangibility, which can be very, very hard to have. Like there's the blessing of this interconnected world where we can all, you can be across the globe and we can have a conversation. And how cool is that?
So cool.
Whereas on the other hand, if it's all without actual touch and sharing breath, which I know that sounds gross, but sharing breath is a big part of being an actor, is that, that inspiration, that sharing the actual atmosphere with people, it reminds us that we're all alive and vulnerable and we all feel pain and we're all dealing with our own sorrows. And so I think reminding ourselves of that and remembering to be empathetic is really very important in this time.
Yeah. Wonderfully said. Very apt. Fantastic. What a great answer. This one, a little more lighthearted. I just had to put that one out there because I was like, I really wanted to hear you talk about this. This one comes in from DJ Strum. It says, question for Amanda with an exclamation point. What's your dream voice role? Certain existing character, maybe? A Pixar film, etc.? I don't know. I like that bird call you made, by the way. That was great.
Yeah, of course I want to work on a Pixar film. That'd be amazing. It changes. Like there's a part of me that I'd like to be Harley Quinn one day.
There you go.
What I really am interested in, I love characters that are really, really, really flawed. I love like a light villain. Where they want something very deeply and very badly, and maybe they make the wrong choices, but then they have a great arc towards understanding their how they can be better, or where they missed an opportunity to create a friendship, or what. I love those kinds of characters. Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I fall in love with my characters and they always are in there. They all live in like little nooks in my brain. So yeah, I guess my dream character is the next one.
Oh, there she goes. I love it. That's a good one. That's the next one. And the next one will be Harley Quinn. I'm just going to put it out there right now.
Very good.
Let's make it happen. And I don't know how we're going to do that. This is a bonus question here at the very end because we had some questions on Twitter, like you said. Also, Rick Hogue, he was asking about the framing. We kind of talked about the framing of Princess Bride with the grandfather and stuff. I think we kind of already addressed that. I
think we addressed it. Yeah.
But the bonus question comes from Frank and it says, bonus question, I'm having a little trouble getting this to work. Is it Wingardium Leviosa or Leviosa?
You have to make the O nice and long.
Leviosa.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Osa. There we go. I was
But
gonna
also, you have to hold the image of what you want very clearly in your mind.
Mm-hmm. Do you
It's
have? I was just saying, do you have a favorite spell?
Huh?
Do you have a favorite spell? I'm sorry, I was going to cut you off there because I wanted to hear this, but hear both.
Well, I have a little bit of a fraught relationship with Harry Potter right now. So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, I just trans lives matter. And
Oh,
it
sure.
really, and
Yeah.
it upsets me because I think her stories are beautiful, but do I have a favorite spell? I don't know. Um, how about this? It's love.
Oh, it's a good spell. It's very
love.
powerful. It's very
Isn't that
good.
what Dumbledore said?
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
it's not, no spell that was ever cast was more powerful.
Yeah, Voldemort knows that firsthand, baby.
Yeah, firsthand. Get it? Because he touches his face and it hurts and Quirrell. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
What can I say? I'm trying over here. You know what I mean? I'm working with somebody who's an improv, so I got to be kind of shooting from the hip a little bit. But yeah, so I'm glad you also cleared it up. Now we all know how to say it properly. I'm not going to try to say it again because we all heard it the best way possible. And I'm from Minnesota or Minnesota. No, it's.
Be careful. You don't want Minnesota to fly.
That's true. You're right. Oh my gosh.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. You'd see me. I'd be like, I'd be like, oh, dang it.
What? How do I reverse it?
Yeah, exactly. How do you reverse it? Oh no, that's now I'm gonna something new to keep me up tonight.
Leviosa Wingardium.
There. Oh. Okay, there we go.
We did it. Okay.
You'd be a great professor. You could be like the exchange professor from the United States. You're like, hey, I came over here.
Or I just teach at the U.S. school, but
That's true.
Yeah. Yes. Obviously.
Yeah.
Hello.
You're like,
I'd like to.
I want to be over at Hogwarts. Thank you very much.
To.
That would
that'd be great.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for answering all of these questions, just ranging all over the place and talking about Princess Bride today. It was fantastic. People know where to find me. However, if people want to find you on Twitter and talk to you about The Princess Bride, the book, the film, or just other things in general, where can they find you?
It's at Amanda_Troop. On Twitter and Instagram, that's the best place. I do have a Facebook fan page, but I don't ever do anything with it. Sometimes I repost things from Instagram on it. So you can like that if you want, but really Instagram and Twitter. And I will be sharing, there's something coming out in May. There's something coming out in June. So do follow me there so I can share those things with you. And you can pick up a copy of Go the Distance, the audiobook. I had a blast reading it, and I think it's a very nice story, so I recommend it very highly.
Fantastic. That's so cool. And this week, I would implore people to go check out and support Ripley Improv.
Oh,
if you
yes,
can.
please.
Please do. Don't worry about me at all. Go check them out. Go see what they're all about. They're online. They've adapted. They've overcome. They're doing new things. You know what I mean? It's fantastic. Yeah. And you're liking it, too, which I'm glad to hear, because I know sometimes people are like, I kind of miss doing it the old ways, and there's probably some of that still, too. But
absolutely. But some of the new things are so cool. The effects and the things that we're able to do, it's really, really neat. So do check it out.
Yes, please do. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in and listening. Please let me know how you enjoyed the show down in the comments or tweeted us or whatever else. And thank you so much to our patrons and everybody supporting us, just watching this, taking the time out of your day. You're fantastic. Last time, Amanda, thank you so much for being on. It was a true pleasure.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yes, and to everybody else, until next time, just remember to adapt and overcome.